When you have an HVAC go out, on an 8 unit, well, that's $3,500. That's pretty significant. That's going to eat up a couple months of cash flow at least. You do that on, a portfolio of 110 units, you're not going to notice it. It's going to be incredibly non-impactful.
We closed our first portfolio, finalized our first portfolio December 10th of 2021. And by the end of this December, just a year later, we will have closed our fifth portfolio. And to give a little clarity or details, so we've grown enough to where, as mentioned earlier, look, sometimes it's a lot of energy for a duplex or a fourplex, and certainly we'll take those down ourselves. But it's hard to interest a lot of investors because there's not a lot of cash flow, and it is somewhat risky, and that's why the smaller stuff we'll do ourselves, and it can be beneficial, less risky if you know what you're doing. But we got to a point where we're like, look, thank you for all these deals coming our way, but we're only going to accept things over 100 units. So we're only going to accept things over 50 units. And we kept seeing great opportunities that were small, and it hurt to pass on them.
Absolutely.
Some of our biggest returns have been at 24 units or less. Gosh, that 4 unit that we had was one of the better ones.
Oh, the one in Benson?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I don't know what that is. 400% ROI in like 6 months. I don't know what it was. But regardless, the purpose of the portfolio that we're doing now, we'll continue to do this. In fact, really excited for about 3 months from now because we're launching a fund, which is the same concept as these portfolios. And so we have 110 units. So this is going to be called Midwest Portfolio 5. There's 110 units in the portfolio. That in and of itself is a good syndication. That's a good scale. It's over 100 mark, and we could just buy it just like that. High cash flow. A lot of it's been turned already. Up and coming market in Rapid City. Really excited. The second deal that came our way is a brand new build, which sometimes can be risky, especially in this market. However, the returns are a tad lower, but if you combine that in the same portfolio as 110 unit kicking out a lot of cash, then and in a different city, in a different state, then you can actually diversify and balance that the risk so that you have a new product in a different state that's going to be a little less in cash flow, but certainly has a chance to appreciate way less expenses. And then you have something else elsewhere that's going to have a lot higher cash flow. We have a third deal that we're looking at, we're extremely close on, in a different city, in a different state. It's about 24 units. And so you're looking at a portfolio with over 150, close to 160 units. And the benefit there is that if one's not going well, the others can help carry it. Or if there's a little bit of vacancy, let's say one of the 24 units has 12 of them vacant. If you just own that, you'd be 50%. But if the other two are doing well, then you have a really good opportunity there because you can just leverage each other. So Midwest Portfolio 5, that's going to be released by us pretty soon, and we're pretty excited about that for sure.
Yeah, what I really like about the portfolios is, one, you have multiple exit strategies. So if you need to sell one or anything, you need a capital influx. You don't have to sell the whole portfolio. You can sell a piece of it if you need to, or if you want to, and you get a really good offer. Refinancing, you don't have to refinance all of them at once. Say the 50 unit property is going to take 3 or 4 years. Well, maybe this 8 unit property is only going to take 6 months to go through that process, that rehab process. Also, to your point with the vacancy and kind of losing some of the loss on vacancy as you're going through rehabbing this, you still have all these other projects that are increasing the cash flow of the overall portfolio. So I really like it. I think it mitigates a lot of risk. What it also does, which I don't know if you spoke on, is we're kind of under the radar of big institutions, and we're above the smaller investor in some of these property purchases, because all of them are above $1 million. Some of them are 5 million, which takes out a lot of, kind of mom and pop investors, but institutions don't want to touch it. But we're able to combine them to create something large enough where it makes sense to syndicate and bring on additional investors.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that that's why it's not only is it a diversification as far as the investment is concerned, but it's a diversification as far as our risk and the appetite and the attention we're getting from lenders and or investors. Because we spoke with somebody the other day who was like, oh, I know about that 110 unit, and it's okay. And I certainly see a lot of opportunity there, so I'm glad you guys will get a hold of it. But right now it's not ready yet. And my answer was, that's why we're buying it. There's some opportunity there. But he was really excited about the brand new 24 units. And so if we would have just brought that one deal to an investor, they may have said, I'm looking for something new, or I'm looking for something that has a lot of meat on the bone. And this kind of helps throw it all into one big soup, which our first 4 are going very well, and I'm very excited for this because it's just now we don't have to pass on good opportunities, and that diversification is huge. Colin, you and I, our first 24 unit we bought.
That was a beauty.
It was, and it's done well for us as well. But I mean, around that same time and shortly thereafter, I had a 20 unit, a 24 unit, a 24 unit, and they're all doing well, but they're almost a little bit more equity plays for me. There's a little bit of cash, but it's not until you start teaming up and scaling and actually adding more and more opportunities in the same bucket that you can actually start getting great cash flow on a quarterly basis. Which I mean,
everything becomes, it kind of flattens the line, flattens the curve of, profitability, income, expenses, the larger you get. Because, we've talked about this before, but when you have an HVAC go out, on an 8 unit, well, that's $3,500 or whatever it is to replace the entire system. That's pretty significant. That's going to eat up a couple months of cash flow at least. You do that on, a portfolio of 110 units, you're not going to notice it. It's going to be incredibly non-impactful. So the more that you can kind of combine these together, the larger the upside for cash flow. But I agree, some of the smaller ones are really good equity plays. We're able to increase the value on them, but the cash flow for at least the significance of it is just less based on some of the rehabs and some of the ongoing maintenance that pops up.